Very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all to ICF Travel Series Break Free. We were on a break for the last few weeks and we are now back with international sessions. And today's session, Across the Seven Seas, is by ICF member Vihang Ghalsasi, who is a scientist and an editor. And this year he became a BELS certified editor, Board of Editors in Life Sciences. So he did part of his studies in Germany and he's been to a lot of countries, I think 22, 18 Indian states. So he will tell us more about his experiences in the 22 countries that he has visited till now. So who wants to add to the list? That also we would like to know from him. Over to you, Vihang.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Murugraj. It's great to meet you all and share my travel experiences with everyone. I hope I am audible, and I will just share the screen. In case if there is any disturbance or any interruption in the connectivity, please let me know. I will definitely try to fix it. All right. So I'll share my screen now. All right. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
So already Vivek has introduced me over here, so I need not repeat everything, but I will just briefly tell that I have my PhD in molecular biology from University of Heidelberg in Germany, and my master's was from IIT Bombay, and I have moved back to India since 2016, and currently I am living in Bangalore. I am working as a scientist, and then as a part-time I also work on manuscripts to edit them to publishable quality, and that's how I am in touch with the ICF group. I've been with this group for more than a year now, and interacting with people, learning from them, and I think it's a great opportunity to interact with all of you on a slightly different topic, which is basically travel experiences. So I'm kind of a generic traveler. I don't specifically travel to something, to look at some specific thing. So I enjoy nature, I enjoy culture, I enjoy architecture, I enjoy food, like everything. So so it's kind of difficult to cover everything in one, but then I have basically this particular talk, I'm going to talk about some unique destinations which I have visited in the past 7 or 8 years. So while I was in Europe, I had an opportunity to visit some European countries. And then when I came back to India, I visited some countries in Southeast Asia and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is what the whole talk is going to be about. So basically, I'm going to talk about these destinations. So first one is going to be Bali, Indonesia, followed by Croatia, then Iceland, then Canary Islands, then Jordan, and then Italy. So these are very amazing destinations, and you will learn from the talk now, like how these are and like what exactly is the speciality about each destination. So starting from Bali, all of you must be knowing Bali. It's like a very popular tourist destination among Indians. It's one of the islands in the Indonesian archipelago. I have put this map for your reference, and I'll just switch on my pointer. Yeah. So if you see here, this is the entire Indonesian archipelago, and then here is Bali, which is just next to Java, a pretty small island. Here I have the zoomed in version of this island, and then if you see that the terrain view over here, it has like some 3 or 4 volcanoes. So the entire Indonesian archipelago are all volcanic islands. At some point of time in the past, these were volcanoes, and then now these are like islands which are like lush green and like teeming with wildlife, and there is also very rich culture associated with it. So Bali, as most of you must be knowing, it's considered to be a Hindu island. Like basically the population which lives there follows Hindu customs and traditions, although they are not very similar to what we practice here in India. But then there are some deities and gods and some concepts which are very much alike how we have it in India. So I'll tell you more about all this and also what exactly lies there on that island and why is it so popular. So starting with this particular park called Garuda Vishnu Kenchana Park. So this is like a huge cultural park wherein they have put these rock cut statues everywhere. And this one statue at the center is like the most important one, where the Garuda is riding on the Lord Vishnu is riding on Garuda, and then this huge statue has been made, and like literally intricately carved details, the ornaments and their expressions and everything. And then below the statue there is a huge museum about different traditions and customs that are being followed in Bali. So this particular idol here is the Garuda idol on the left hand side, which is looking over to Vishnu. And even this Garuda idol is very intricately carved, like it's very huge. You can compare it from the size of the people who are going around in this park. This is something recently made, and it's on top of a hill, pretty much a popular destination now in Bali to visit. So this is like a zoomed in picture of this particular idol. You can see how beautifully carved it is, like the wings and the feathers of this Garuda, and the golden thing that is wearing on the head, right? So it's quite beautiful there. Then at the park they also have some cultural programs where some Balinese dance and music has been performed. Like for every 15 minutes the show goes on, and the tourists can just go in and watch the show and enjoy how the witness how the cultural traditions are there in Bali. From there, so Bali is basically famous for its temples, its beaches, and other adventurous activities that you could do. And I would say that Bali is basically a destination for all. Like if you are a young couple who wants to go on a honeymoon, yes, you can go to Bali because it's full of nice romantic beaches. If you are a cultural enthusiast, yes, you can go to Bali because Hindu traditions and customs and how they have blended with the local Asian customs, that's a very interesting thing to look at. If you are an architecture enthusiast, yes, you can go and visit all the temples. That's also a very interesting thing to look at. One example is here right in front of you, this particular temple, which is at the cliff in the southern part of Bali. And then if you are an adventure seeker, you can go and climb the volcanoes over there, or you can do all the sea sports over there. So Bali is a destination for everyone, pretty much enjoyable, and it's still quite easy on your pocket as well. So this was one very interesting temple. It's lying there on the hilltop with a beautiful view of the Indian Ocean. Then coming down to the beaches of Bali. So there are hundreds of thousands of them, literally, because it's an island. So every corner there is a beach. But this is my favorite beach. I went over here, and this beach is called a Green Bowl Beach. So literally the beach is surrounded by cliffs from all the sides, and there is like a small depression, and then in that depression water is gushing from all the sides, and it literally looks green because the cliffs are all they have the green trees and bushes around them, and that is reflected in the water. So that's why the whole thing is called Green Bowl Beach. It's pretty mesmerizing beach over here. And then you have some other small islands which are around Bali, like there's Nusa Lembongan, these small islands are there. You can make like a day trip over there and visit some attractions. So one of the islands is called Nusa Lembongan, and it's a very small island compared to Bali, but it's a pretty much a rocky island. And then this particular place is called Devil's Tear. So here if you see, this is a rocky shore, and then below the rocky shore there is a small cave. And when water is at high tide, and then when it starts gushing into this cave, it completely explodes out like a fountain. And then you can see some rainbow, or like these different kinds of experiences over there. Pretty rustic sight. If you literally stand there on the cliff and look the water gushing in, you feel you have a very different feeling about it. Coming down to temples, so I also spoke that Bali is a land of temples as well. And then see how the unique architecture is. You have these small shrines with these thatched roofs on the top, and you might be wondering, like, how a temple in India looks like. You have in India, for example, you have this one first entering mandapa kind of a thing, and then there is a smaller inner shrine which is called as Garbhagruha, in which we have the idol which we worship, and then on top of it there is a kalasa. So that's like a typical architecture in India how we have for temples. But in Bali, the temples are like open courtyards. There is nothing like an enclosure, or there is nothing like a Garbhagruha. So they have these different deities. Some of them are like actually their ancestors which they want to worship, or some local saints that whom they want to worship. And then for them they have erected these small thatched roof kind of structures. However, here on the right hand side, what you see, this is called as a Padmasana, right? So here is what they call as a supreme deity, which is like formless or shapeless or nameless. This is like a main attraction over there, like the main thing inside the temple courtyard. So this temple is called Puratirtha Temple, and they say that this water is very holy, and if you can go and bath in this water, you can. It's a very good custom over there in that part. This is another temple. This is again one of my favorite temples. So this is called as Gunung Kavi Sebatu, and this has a huge courtyard, and you see this Saraswati idol over in the middle of this pond, and then this is so beautiful and so surreal, because this particular idol is like it's totally white marble in color, and all the expressions and all its forms and everything is very intricately carved. And if you just walk around this courtyard, you will feel that you have like a very surreal feeling, like a very serene and calm feeling if you go over here. From there, I moved on to the nature plus adventure part of Bali. Like Bali also has lots of waterfalls, lot of tropical rainforest, right? A lot of volcanoes. I'm coming to volcanoes in the later part. So this is one of the waterfalls over there. This is called Tirtha Buana waterfall. This is not very big, but when I went over there, I literally saw absolutely nobody over there. And then in the middle of this valley with all the lush green forests around and this water gushing around, it was a very surreal experience to be over there. This is another temple called Ulundanu. This is the most popular temple in Bali, because here you see that these two particular structures are literally floating in the water. But actually they are small islands, and the water is at such a level that you feel that they are actually floating. But then the overall surrounding area over here is so serene. You have this huge lake called Lake Beratan, and there is like a small range of mountains which goes around this lake. And on a clear sunny day, you just go and sit over there, and then you have like a very different vibe. It's a mix of nature and like spirituality and everything put together. So very, very surreal experience over here. This is another waterfall called Sekempul waterfall. Now this is pretty big. You can actually do like a full day trek to go down in this valley through some forests, go and take some bath in these small water puddles over there, and enjoy everything. So like I did not have that much time, so I just went to a small viewing point where there was a small gallery or a promenade kind of thing made, from where you can see this particular waterfall. But again, from here itself, it was a breathtaking view, and pretty much enjoyable over here. Then coming down to volcanoes. So as I said in the earlier part, that the these are all volcanic islands. So there are still some volcanoes which are active, and these are the three most important volcanoes. And actually I had lost my way when I was about to reach this town of Kintamani, and then suddenly at one turn I came out and I saw this particular thing, and I was literally awestruck. I'm like, what is this? Like, where have I come? Like, how come these three volcanoes are like jutting out of nowhere? And I just stood there, imagining like, what is this? Like, took some time out for myself, took a lot of pictures from there. So these are the three volcanoes literally side by side. So the last one that is the tallest is called Mount Agung, which is basically considered holy on the island of Bali. A lot of people worship it. In fact, all the temples and houses in Bali are arranged, or their architecture is arranged in such a way that they either face or have this Mount Agung in a certain direction from their households. So I was about to climb this lowest one. This is called Mount Betur. Okay, let's come down to the Mount Betur thing. So this is like you do this hike in the middle of the night. Just excuse me for a moment, okay? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. Okay, so this is the Mount Batur, and the interesting part over here is that there is a huge caldera around it, and the town of Kintamani is literally located in the caldera of this volcano, and you can hike to this volcano. And the famous thing to do is you hike on this mountain in the middle of the night, reach there just before sunrise, and then watch the sunrise on the carpet of clouds. So that was something I was very much looking forward to. I reached this town, and then almost at 3 a.m. or something, we started climbing. The climb was not very difficult, as in it was not very tough in terms of inclination, but because of the volcanic sand, the whole thing was getting way more difficult, because you try to step somewhere and then you slide down a few inches again. So like that part was the most challenging part to go on this mountain. But eventually we reached, and then this is how the sunrise happened. Like Just few minutes before sunrise, everything was clear. The skies were clear. Even in fact, we could even see the Milky Way and everything. But just in moments, like a huge burst of clouds came, and it completely overshadowed our experience of sunrise. So like all of us, like I went with a small group of people from the hostel, and we all were very disappointed that, oh my god, we missed our sunrise, and like how could it happen? But then yeah, that's how nature is. You cannot really predict how things can take a turn in a matter of moments. But nonetheless, we still waited over there, even though that exact moment of sun rising over the horizon was missed. We still thought, okay, let's wait and see how things unfold. And then at one point, the sun came a little bit above the horizon, and then you could see this golden light spreading all over the valley. And the clouds were literally moving at a very fast pace. And then we were sitting there on the cliff, watching all all the play of the nature. And that was very, very, very surreal and very spiritual as well. So that's all about Bali. I hope I am audible and all of you are enjoying the talk. Let's move on to another destination now. That's Croatia. So this is now in Europe. This country I visited when I was studying in Germany. And just for your reference, I have put it here as where exactly this country lies. So this is in southeastern Europe, just on the opposite side of the Adriatic Sea. And then this is the zoomed in version of how this country is located. So Croatia was part of the bigger Yugoslavia that had formed just after the World War II. But then later in, I think, 90s or something, they split up into 3 different countries of Serbia, this Bosnia Herzegovina, and Croatia. So Croatia is blessed with this huge coastline of Adriatic Sea. And you can see how many islands are here, like it's dotted with small islands. And then these are all beautiful islands. The waters are crystal clear, and there is a huge scope for tourism in Croatia. In fact, from all these landlocked countries like Hungary and Serbia, it's like a custom to, on summer months, it's like a custom for everybody to flock to coast in Croatia and then enjoy the sun and the sea and everything. So I chose to go there in spring, just at the beginning of spring, kind of Easter holidays, around that time. And although it's famous for beaches, but it's also famous for this national park called Plitvice National Park. It's a beautiful park. It's in the interiors of the country, and it is basically a string of lakes and rivers which are interconnected. And then there is like a big variation in the terrain. The elevation goes on from very high to very low, and then at every step you have waterfalls. So basically it's like a wonderland, like wonderland or a paradise land where you walk everywhere. There are either these emerald blue waters and lakes, or there are these small tiny waterfalls. Sometimes they are literally few feet tall, and sometimes they are like very huge. But overall it is just full of these kind of lakes. So this is the top view of the entire park, and you can see how these small lakes are formed. And then at every junction you have water gushing down in these small rivulets. Beautiful experience. It's a must-visit destination. If you are ever planning to go to Europe, definitely include Croatia in your itinerary and definitely visit this particular place. Then there's this little bit of adventurous activity that we did. This is called as Mordic Cave near Zadar. So Zadar is like a port town in Croatia. And it's basically Zadar doesn't have anything much to offer except for a small beach and a small promenade, but it's like a port town. So from the economics point of view, or from the trade point of view, it's a very very strong destination. But then near Zadar there is this cave, and it has these stalagmites and stalactites and everything. So we booked like a short guided tour. I was with a friend of mine, and then this guide was there with us, and then he took us to a random place somewhere on a hill, and then he said, like, he showed us a small cavity below a rock, and he's like, oh, you have to go in there. I was like shocked, like, how can I even crawl in there? I mean, probably not even my hand can go. But he said, like, no, I'll show you how. And then this guy was actually much bigger than me, and then he seamlessly crawled in there, and then he's like, look, there is like a big chamber over here, come inside. So we slowly crawled in. Like, I was totally in those overalls and a headlamp and all the safety gears and everything, then crawled in, and then the huge chamber opened up, and then we were walking with these flame lights to see all these marvelous structures of stalagmites and stalactites. Beautiful experience, a bit adventurous, a bit scary, but a lot of fun. This is the port of Zadar, and at the promenade they have built some musical steps. So when the waves splash on these particular rocks, some musical notes are being heard. It's also very nice. You sit there on a nice evening, and then depending on how the waves are splashing, you keep hearing some musical notes. So beautiful place. This is called Kornati National Park. So as I told, that Croatia, the whole coast of Croatia is dotted with small islands. So the Kornati National Park is kind of a group of these islands, and the waters are very shallow over there. So at some places it's barely around 10 or 20-meter deep, and over here, so you can see like it's basically your knee deep water, and it's crystal clear. I had never seen such a clear crystalline water ever in my life. At one point I would just keep wondering, like, is it even water or is it just like a glass which has been kept there or something like that. But beautiful. It was a bit cold to take a dip over here. If it was a little warmer, I would have definitely taken a dip, but just watching over it or going in a boat ride around these islands on such beautiful blue-green waters was also a very nice experience. This is Dubrovnik. So this is like a cultural capital of Croatia. This is at the southernmost tip of the country. And if those of you who watch Game of Thrones, you must be knowing that a lot of things have been shot at this particular location. And it has a very nice medieval architecture. And the place where I'm standing, you can see here on the right hand side corner. So this is like a small old city, which is on a hillock, and then it is guarded by a lot of walls. So these walls are called as city walls of Dubrovnik, and this is like a heritage thing over there in the city. You could just take a walk around and then look at all the points and how the city looks like and everything. And here on the left hand side is like the castle of Dubrovnik, and on everywhere around you is the Adriatic Sea. Beautiful town, and just taking a walk is also a very nice experience. This is how the whole city center looks like in the night. Everything is well maintained. So this particular bell tower was a little bit destroyed at the Yugoslavian war, but then later on they have rebuilt everything. They have rebuilt each and every building, and nice cobblestone pathways are there. The whole of this old city is a pedestrian area. No vehicles are allowed. And everybody can go and take a nice walk, sit in a nice cafe, watch the world pass by, and enjoy your time. That's it for Croatia. Now let's go on to another very interesting destination of Canary Islands. So you must have recently heard in the news that one of the volcanoes in Canary Islands has exploded, and then it has disrupted air traffic, and then it has put the life of a lot of people in danger. So the place where I went to, the Tenerife, is one of these islands. Although this is not the same island where the volcano has now erupted, it's an adjoining island on the other side. Here on the zoomed in version, you can see that there are these 7 islands, and this is Santa Cruz de Tenerife is this one island where I had gone. Very unique destination. A part of this island is very dry and rustic, and another part is like lush green. So like within a same island you can see literally 2 different biogeographic climatic zones. So this is on the southern side. This is a red sand beach, and you can see how the vegetation is. It looks like a desert, like almost some thorny bushes or something like this. This is the volcano which lies in the middle of this island. It's around 3,800 meter high. In fact, this is the highest mountain in Spain. So these islands, actually, they are very far from the mainland of Spain. They are like off the coast of Morocco, but for historical reasons, they are part of Spain. So like politically, everything is governed here by Spanish people. So although this particular mountain is not in the mainland of Spain, they still call it as like the highest mountain of Spain. You can go here on the top using a ropeway. So after going with a ropeway, I reached at this particular spot, and this actual summit was a little higher up. But then there was a lot of snow up there, so couldn't go there. But from here itself, the view was amazing. Here is like the second particular crater of the same volcano. I am standing on the one. And here on the distance, you can see the 2 other islands of the same archipelago. And this huge one is the Atlantic Ocean over here. Beautiful place. And you can see how the terrain looks like. So right now here I am in the middle of the caldera of this volcano. Like nothing can really grow except for these small thorny bushes and something. Here is a huge line of vehicles that is lined up to go down to the city side. And here you see the different colors of the sand. Somewhere it is red, somewhere it is dark brown, somewhere it is light brown, and how the hills look like. It's really literally feel like you are on a different planet. Then I went on to do this small hike called in a Muska Gorge. So this is like a small, small gorge that goes out down, and then finally meets the Atlantic Ocean. And this hiking is also a very popular activity over there. I actually went on my own. I didn't have anybody to guide me or to navigate or whatever, but there were lots of groups going, so that wasn't much of a difficulty. But at every step, the scenery was different. So from here, this is where you begin the hike, and here you have some trees and everything, and then as you go deeper and deeper, you have all these rocks, and the whole thing becomes extremely narrow in shape, and you have to literally jump over these rocks to wade through. Very nice, very different experience over here. Then coming down to the northern part of the island, which I said is like a lush green part, this is where the whole the mist from the Mediterranean comes, and that volcano, because it sits in the middle, it stops all the mist going to the southern side, and it just keeps pouring all the time on the northern side. And then because of that, the northern and the northeastern side is extremely lush green. So all the farming or whatever industries or whatever you have on the island is on the northern and the northeastern part, whereas the southern and southwestern part is totally dry and rustic. There is really nothing over there. So just within the same island, you literally feel that you are on a continent, because you feel such a huge variation in climate as well as in the terrain. So I was in the northern part now, and through this lush green laurel forest, they are called, I went for a small hike, and the hike finally goes on to a hillside, and then you see this extremely beautiful views of the Atlantic Ocean. And here you see this one small lighthouse. This entire point is called Punta del Hidalgo, and you can watch the Atlantic Ocean. So literally from this point until the mainland of Americas, there is really nothing in between. If I literally start swimming over here, I can probably come out somewhere in New York or some state on the eastern coast of America. This is called La Laguna. This is like a cultural capital of this particular island, and very famous for a typical Spanish architecture from the 17th and 16th and 17th centuries. So what is unique about it is that when Spanish people, they were exploring the seas, the age of exploration was happening. That time these islands were always like a stopover. Like you start from Europe, you cross the Mediterranean, then you come into the Atlantic, and before you head towards the Americas, you stop here at Tenerife or some other island to get all the food and the supplies and everything. And so that's how this became like a Spanish settlement in those times. And then the cities and towns were all based on the typical Spanish ideas of architecture and town planning and everything. So La Laguna is one such very famous town which follows those architectural elements. So that's it. That's all for Tenerife. Coming to Iceland. Okay, so Iceland is, you must have all heard, is a very unique place. So on this map, if you carefully look, Greenland and Iceland are next to each other, but you see how the colors look like. So Google Maps to some extent tries to paint the land on the basis of how much vegetation it has. So you can see that Iceland is actually greener than Greenland, and Greenland is actually icier than Iceland. And this is like a famous quote that everybody keeps telling you when you go to Iceland. Every tourist guide or everybody you meet will keep telling you about this particular irony, that how these islands have been named this way. Kind of funny, but then these islands were actually, they started being inhabited during the, somewhere in the medieval times, when the Nordic people from the Norway, Denmark, and these countries, they started exploring, and then they did the initial settlements over there, and then that finally grew into a separate population with a separate cultural identity and a national identity now. So this is Reykjavik. Reykjavik is the capital of Iceland, and this particular sculpture is called the Sun Voyager. This indicates that exact age of exploration during which the Nordic people, they just came on ships, and finally they ended up on this island, and that's how the founding stone of this particular nation was made or was built. This is a beautiful view around the time of a sunset, beautiful clouds and beautiful scenery. This I call this as the midnight sunset. This picture has been clicked at 11:30 p.m. as per the local time. I had gone there in the month of June, and in the month of June, as you must be knowing, in the northern hemisphere, the days are pretty long. And in Iceland, that being at 64 degrees north latitude, there is absolutely no dark. Like there is really nothing called as a sunset. basically it's just a little bit of a dusk, like the sun literally goes and just touches the horizon, and everything becomes something like a, something like a very gloomy, cloudy night. And then for 2 hours it stays that way. And then by 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. you again have the sunrise, and again everything becomes bright. It's kind of very difficult to sleep in such a weather or in such a kind of a climatic condition. But very unique thing to observe. Like as I grew up in India, and we all are very used to, or we in fact take it for granted, that there will be 11 to 12 hours of sunlight and 11 to 12 hours of night throughout the year, and we really don't anticipate any such changes. But when you go and live in countries which are far up north, you have this a lot of variation in the length of the day and the length of the night. So this watching this kind of a so-called sunset at 11:30 p.m. was also pretty much amusing for me. Just excuse me for a moment. Okay, I'm going to keep the video off for a while. I hope I'm still audible. Vivek or Murugeshan, can you please confirm?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, Iceland. Coming down to again, this is Iceland. These are Esja hills. These are small hills around the town of Reykjavik. And I had gone there in the peak of summer, as I said, like in the month of June. And everything, the whole valleys and everything was full of these flowers. These are called lupin flowers. So these are actually not native to Iceland. They are actually native to Alaska. And then the seeds of these flowers were brought into Iceland just to make the landscape a little bit colorful. Because Iceland being again a volcanic island, it's just full of volcanoes and glaciers. It's a very unique combination. You have a lot of ice, you have a lot of cold, you have a lot of glaciers, and at the same side you have a lot of volcanoes, right? So in short, the land is not very fertile. It's not at all suitable for any agriculture. And even if you tell about the usual forests or natural vegetation, that is also very less over here on this island. So they brought in these seeds, and then they spread it everywhere. Maybe only in some parts of the island, but then this became like a pest, that these flowers, they took over the entire territory, and then they started spreading everywhere. So although they look very beautiful, but it kind of is an ecological disaster to have these foreign plants invading the local local biodiversity. Nonetheless, landscape is beautiful. I went for a short hike here on these hills. It was very close to Reykjavik, and shot a lot of pictures. So this is I was talking about, right? I mean, up here you have these glaciers, and then look how the terrain is, right? I mean, these mountains are like black or gray or sometimes brown, and then you have these huge rivers flowing around. Everything gets frozen in the winters, and then as soon as the summer sets in, the rivers start gushing down, all the muddy waters everywhere, and then there are just rocks. So it's pretty much of a dull landscape, but then it has its own inherent beauty. Like I personally find everything that is of nature very beautiful, of whatever color or shade it is. So I went for a short hike within this glacier kind of area. And the funny thing or a unique thing about Iceland is that it has a very high geothermal activity. So if you're walking around and if you literally like touch some rock somewhere around here, you will find that the rock is hot. Like, why is it hot? Because maybe there is some hot spring around, or maybe there is some kind of a steam coming around from somewhere. So that is very common sight over there, and Iceland has very successfully exploited this particular natural advantage that they have had. The almost 60 to 80% of their power is actually derived from this geothermal energy. And they are literally operating greenhouses which are powered from this geothermal energy, and then they're growing crops over there, like they're growing tomatoes or fruits or some other vegetables and everything, because naturally they really can't grow. And these are some sulfur deposits. So you all must have heard that whenever there is some volcanic activity or some hot water springs, it always has this rotten neck kind of a smell, and that is because there's a high amount of sulfur over there. The same is the situation in this case. lot of sulfur deposits. You can see the fumes coming, and if you stand over there for 5 minutes, you can't stand more than 5 minutes because the smell of the sulfur is very strong. This is another very unique place in Iceland. This is called as Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So if you literally look at the map of the globe, the entire Earth, and if you focus on the Atlantic Ocean, you will see that there is a huge range of mountains that goes in the right in the middle of Atlantic Ocean, between the continents of Africa, Europe on this side, and then the Americas on this side. In the middle, there is this range of mountains. This entire range of mountains is submerged. It's not above the water. Okay, it's below the water, but only on the island of Iceland it comes above the water. And this is literally the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that you're seeing here in this pic. So the side where I'm standing is actually a part of the Eurasian or Africa Eurasia wala tectonic plate, and the other side is actually the American side of the tectonic plate. So it's a very unique site. It's of superior interest for geologists and paleobiologists, because probably these kind of movements happened millions of years ago. And if you probably take out some samples from here and there, you might understand a lot of information from the geological past. Looks like an ordinary park. You see some people cycling over here, some people taking a walk. But from the geological point of view, this has immense importance. So Iceland is also a land of waterfalls. This is one of the majestic waterfalls. It's called Gulfoss. You see how this tremendous flow of water is literally pouring in this small valley, and the whole mist is rising above. And you can just walk around on the entire side to see the waterfall from different angles. This is a very mesmerizing place to visit. Again, another example of geothermal activity is these hot water springs. This particular town is called Geyser, and then here there is a hot water spring which just gushes out of water. The whole steam and hot water just gushes out at an interval of every 2 to 3 minutes. So you must have sorry, you must have heard of such volcanoes in California or in other parts where also such kind of hot water springs exist. So in Iceland also there is this very unique place. You see how tall this entire thing is rising up, and in this entire area is literally full of hot water springs everywhere. You walk to any corner, you will see some puddle of water, and then some small bubbles and like steam is coming out of that. So, quite interesting thing. Let's come to another beautiful country in West Asia, and it's called Jordan. I have just for your reference, I have put this map over here. You see where is it located? You see all the names around, like Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. So you will feel like, oh my God, where is this guy going? And this was the year 2013. So this was the time when the ISIS was at its full bloom and had almost conquered like half of Syria and Iraq. But Jordan was in the middle of all this chaos. Jordan was still a very peaceful and a very friendly country to visit, and then to go and enjoy the cultural part of it. So it's surprisingly or fortunately, both ways, Jordan is still a very nice and peaceful place, and very unique place to enjoy the nature as well as culture. So Jordan has a lot of archaeological sites, and this is called as Temple of Hercules. It's in a town called Jerash. This is in the northern part of Jordan, and this has the ruins from the Greco-Roman times. So during the time when Alexander sort of went around the whole of Asia, and then came all the way to the border of India, conquered all the empires in between, and then at that time he established a lot of small cities and towns across the Middle East as well as the Turkey, and then also part of Iran and everywhere. So this particular town of Jerash was also one of those, and it was on the important trade route from say West Asia to Egypt, and it was a very flourishing town. Beautiful architecture everywhere. This particular structure is called Temple of Hercules, and then everywhere in the city there are these ruins. These ruins. So look at these pillars. Like they are like huge ones, and then at the top you have this very intricately carved design. So imagine like whatever 2,000 years ago, when this entire thing would have been like a flourishing town, how this could have been looked, how this must have been looking, right? It's very mesmerizing to imagine it that way. This is again a very peculiar or a very unique place in Jordan. It's a town called Madaba. and this town of Madaba is famous for its maps. So this is one map. I don't know how much you can actually figure out, but this actually is a map of the entire valley of Israel and Jordan, about the entire trade route of as to how you can go from one place to another place. And these are called mosaics because there are small pebbles of different colors which people have literally stamped on the ground to prepare these kind of structures. And this was literally on the ground in the middle of nowhere, and then later on the people built a church around it just to protect it. And even today this entire thing is very well protected. You're not even allowed to walk over on this area. You can just go around and see it or take pictures of it. It's very culturally and historically a unique place. This is the Dead Sea. All of you must have heard of Dead Sea. Like the salinity over here is extremely high, and you can literally float onto this. And you can see here that there are these salt deposits. So whatever water comes out keeps coming on the coast. So whenever it evaporates, it has these small crystals of salt that are being formed over here. And you actually do float on this water because the density of water is too high. I also had a small attempt of doing that, but unfortunately I had actually just shaved on the same day in the morning. So the moment I put my face inside the water, it started burning like hell. It was a very funny incident, and I literally walked out of the water in barely 5 or 10 minutes. But yes, I did that. I attempted to see whether I can really float on this water or not, and yes, you do. Then coming to another historic place in Jordan, this is called Petra. So if you have watched the movie Indiana Jones, this particular left-hand side picture must be very familiar for you. And this is called a Sikh on the right-hand side. This is like a gorge through sandstones. So you walk through this particular gorge, and then you come down to an open area, and then you see this particular temple called Al Khazne. And this is the most unique, most prominent, structure there in Petra. So Petra was also an ancient town on the trade route from West Asia to Egypt. And because of this unique formation of sandstone rocks in the middle of the desert, the Nabatean people of those times, they thought that we could build a city over here by making use of the natural water harvesting capacity. So they literally dug out small channels in these sandstones, and they dig out huge tanks as well as pits where they could store water. So people would come on camels. The traders would come on camels, and then they would just stop over here, do some trade, have some business around over there, drink water, have some food, and then pass on and go on to the other part. So then somewhere in the Middle Ages, some huge earthquake happened, and a lot of structures collapsed, and the water harvesting system also collapsed. And then later on, this entire thing was abandoned. So it was abandoned for like almost two or three centuries. And at some point, some European guy was going around and exploring the area, and then he suddenly found this particular architectural treasure. So it was like a huge Eureka moment for that. So same story that happened with our Ajanta caves, right? There also some British guy came and he suddenly discovered that those all 22 odd caves. So some similar story over here as well. Coming down to Wadi Rum. So Wadi Rum is also like, it's a desert, and then again it has these sandstone cliffs everywhere. And because of huge wind movements of erosion, these kind of arcs and unique structures have formed. So I went for a desert camping over here. Very unique experience. The guy literally takes you on on a 4x4 wheel drive jeep, and everywhere the sand is just going around. You have to literally cover your face, your eyes, and nose and mouth and everything, because that sand might just irritate you a lot. But then at every moment you see around and you see these unique structures. It's very breathtaking views all around. This is the sunset in this red desert. This literally feels like you are on Mars or something. Beautiful red sand. And then in the middle of this, we had our camp. And in the night, the temperature literally went down to less than 5 degrees in 5 degrees Celsius, and the wind was chilly. But then the camping experience was extremely surreal over here. This is another view from the desert. You have these cliffs, and then you can walk through those over the red sand. Coming to another destination, Italy. All of you must be knowing about Italy, and many of you must have even been to Italy, right? And it's a very popular destination, tourist destination for Indians. A lot of us travel to Rome A lot of us travel to Florence, Venice, right? These are all very popular tourist destinations. So I did visit some of those cities, but then what I'm going to talk about over here is something that many people don't visit or don't really know about. Those are the two places over here near the town of Naples. One is Pompeii and another is called as island of Capri. So coming to Pompeii, I hope some of you must have watched the movie called Pompeii, as to what Pompeii is and that story what happened. So these are the ruins of Pompeii, and just behind you is the mountain called as Mount Vesuvius. This is again a volcano, and around 2,000 years ago, a volcanic eruption happened over here, and this volcano erupted, and then there was this town with some people who were living over here. There was like nice trade and everything was happening, and people didn't understand what's happening. They just saw that the mountain has exploded and a lot of fumes and dust and clouds, everything is coming out of that, but they didn't know what to do with it. Some people fled the town, but some people just stayed put over there, and they literally just went on their knees, and they thought that it's the rage of the god, that is, or we have done something wrong, that the god is enraged, and they started praying that, oh my god, please save me. And the pyroclastic material, or the hot fumes, they literally swept across the entire town, and everything just got fossilized in that pyroclastic material. You can literally find people who are covered in that pyroclastic material, who are like in that position that they are like literally sitting on their knees and praying, and then the whole heat swept through, and they died, of course, and then their body got just fossilized in that pyroclastic material. It's a very unique thing. When they started digging out over here, they found that the entire city was absolutely intact, like nothing happened, and they could figure out a lot of things about the pre-Roman era architecture, about how the lifestyle would have been, about what people must be eating, how the city structure must have been, so on and so forth, right? So today it's a very popular tourist site. So here you can see this one of the specimens, what I was talking about. This guy is sleeping, and in the middle of the sleep itself, the whole pyroclastic material swept over this particular person, and then he's just fossilized. So everything inside, the bones, the clothes that the person was wearing, everything was very intact. And now today it's the museum. The Superman has been kept in a museum, and the tour guide takes people around and then tells everything about how this thing, what must have happened at that time. Okay, sorry, there was a minor interruption. Okay, so coming down, this is the island of Capri. This is again a small island just off the coast of Italy, from the town of Naples. Beautiful blue-green sea, the sea around over here, the Mediterranean Ocean basically. And then Capri is a very small island, and it has it's a small hill on top. So you could go there with a ropeway and then enjoy the entire scenery around. But the unique thing about this island is not just that a small hill is there, is about this particular cave. So on this island, there is a small cave. It's called as Blue Cave, or Grotto Azzurro, how they call it in Italian. You can actually get into a small canoe and then go inside this cave. And what is there inside this cave is what you see here in this particular picture. So the cave is half above the water and half below water. And when the sun is shining right on the other side, the sun rays, they get into the cave, both through air as well as through the water, and the water inside looks as if it's glowing, right? So the sun rays are coming from all possible directions, and this is a small cave. You have to literally duck down. A small canoe will push you inside, and once you go inside, it's like a different world. It's like total dark everywhere, just the roof of the cave around you, and the water beneath you is glowing. Very, very surreal and very unique experience. You can't even spend more than 5 to 10 minutes over there, because it's, again, one, it's crowded. Two, it is that the oxygen is very less over there. But for whatever time you can spend inside, it's just beyond words, beyond explanation. So that's it, people. I hope you enjoyed the talk. This is my Instagram handle, Panthasta a Wayfarer. I also run a travel blog in Marathi. Some of the articles are also in English, but majority of them are in Marathi. Uh, um, and then this is my Twitter handle, and this is a Facebook profile. Please do get in touch with me. And I would like to have any questions or any comments if you have. Just wait a moment. I'll just switch on my camera again.